Hey guys. Um, I don't know. I wasn't going to talk about this one. It seems like it's not difficult to analyze, but it comes with a lot of hostile emotions sometimes. Recently, I had listened to the Trump and Netanyahu meeting that they had on February 4th, which I think was last week, yeah. And I didn't listen to it on the day that it occurred. Honestly, sometimes listening to, in particular, Netanyahu, he churns my stomach. And then when I did go back and listen to it, at the risk of my stomach churning, his face also, I don't know, I have a reaction to it. I tried to figure out what it was. And I think that in his eyes, he seems to have that um, look of unfettered sadism. And it's dancing around in his eyes, and you can see it. Now, I know those aren't the nicest things that could be said. However, let's be real. The things that were said in that meeting were far worse than anything I could say about his, I don't know, his countenance. So, yeah. Back to the meeting. I thought it was interesting. It kind of seemed to open with like a whole bunch of flattery that Netanyahu was doing towards Trump. Uh, it was too much, and then Trump seemed to come back with stuff that I found interesting. I think he was talking about the Saudis being complicated people, and the Gazans being a complex group of people. Um, I just kept thinking, are we not? Is the United States of America not a complicated people? Are we not complex ourselves? I just found that to be interesting. And then after the flattery and the should we call them compliments that Donald Trump had towards the people of that region, he allowed Netanyahu to talk about uh, his goals, which were for all the hostages to get out, to destroy Hamas military and governing capabilities, and then he said to make sure that Gaza doesn't pose a threat to Israel again. Those were his 3-point goals. And then Donald Trump followed that up with basically saying that the Gazans need to leave because who'd want to come back there? And they need to get that land cleaned up, and the Gazans need to be put someplace else. And the whole thing, if it wasn't so sad, you know, could make you laugh. It made me laugh because last year, I think it was February 7th, maybe, I had made a video, yep, 12 months ago, titled Dinosaurs, Man, and Money. And I read a poem called Less Than an Animal, More Than a Dollar. And in that poem, I believe I told you all that I was inspired by 3 signs that happened. After I wrote that poem, a week later, Jared Kushner came out in an interview and said that, that land would be perfect for development and waterfront property, which was what my poem was about. I just thought, wow. So, I made a few more videos after about the Palestinians because it is something that, many people, including myself, feel terrible about. Um, and pretty much helpless about. And listening to that meeting on, listening to that meeting of Trump and Netanyahu, the way these men speak. And, Trump is, if you look at his speech a lot, he does use a lot of superlatives. He's going to do something great. He's going to be the greatest. He's going to be the best. Sometimes when he's talking about people doing a bad job, he will say that they are the worst. Yeah, when I was listening to them, I was reminded of John Galsworthy's book, The Man of Property, which I owned, but I did not read. Because when I worked at the library a long time ago, I actually watched, instead of reading the book, I watched the Forsyte saga, which is based on the book, The Man of Property. That's what these guys remind me of. These I guess they're world leaders. I guess that's what we're supposed to think they are. They in particular, they remind me of the character Soames. They often speak about what they're doing and how great it is, and that they're the best at what they do. Um, and and that meeting was just an exhibition of the contrary to those opinions that they have of themselves. I kept thinking, how in the world can you move all these people to other people's lands and then develop the land over there as if nothing had happened, as if that land was always yours? It reminded me, honestly, of Japanese internment in the United States. There's so many things, honestly, let's be real. There's so many things that the US has done to other people. But even as far as the Japanese internment camps, a lot of those Japanese people were found to be US citizens. But what did we do to them? We got hysterical about Pearl Harbor, and we said that the Japanese people that were citizens here were basically our enemies. We said that they were our enemies, just like other Japanese people that had been our enemies, even though there was no evidence to that. And we sent them to those camps. We displaced them. We stole their land, and we robbed their freedom. And it's just odd to me that though that happened not that long ago, because it was just in the 40s, that we're back here again. Which means that we didn't learn anything. We learned nothing. Or we just do not care about what we learn. Because even though that happened to the Japanese in the 40s, in the 80s, Reagan came out and apologized about it. So then that means even if, you had no recollection of what happened in the 40s, in the 80s, there was a reminder there that things like that should not be done to any group of people. Yet here we are saying that all Palestinians are should be punished for a small group. Now, at this point, if you've made it to this point in the audio, and you find what I say offensive, you might be like, well, we must never forget October 7th. Oh, never forget. Believe me, I won't forget. I was here in the United States on that day. But my father's birthday is on that day. And my husband's birthday is on that day. So no, I don't forget October 7th. What I will say, though, is that if we are not collectively punishing people like what we did to the Japanese in the 40s, then why did Benjamin Netanyahu, listing his goals, he listed one of his goals, the third one, as to make sure that Gaza doesn't pose a threat to Israel again. But in his second goal, he said, destroy Hamas. He was speaking as if all all people of Gaza are Hamas, as if they were one. So then, yes, they should be collectively punished, even though we know that violates law. He was speaking the way we spoke about the Japanese. He was speaking the way Germans spoke about Jewish people. At the beginning of their meeting, Netanyahu was attempting to flatter Trump, which right there in itself I would find mistrustful. He said that Trump was a great force and that he had powerful leadership. Now that could be true, but it's more than likely that Netanyahu was using those key words, great and powerful, to really, you know, stoke that ego in Trump, uh, as one of his angles to promote solidarity between the two of them. Just the whole thing. The whole thing was so transparent and it was so dreadful. You know, in the Forsyte saga, the main character, Soames, he was the man of property, of the most property, I would say, in that story. Although they had multi-generational wealth, a lot of people who know the story would consider it a tragedy. Soames was a failure. I believe that he was a failure before he began, because he did not understand that he could not be the greatest man, because he exploited his power to practice being a god. That's all that was. He never wanted to be just a man, just a good man, just a decent man. So all of his efforts and all of his practice was in being a god. And he didn't become that either.